Welcome to the VP Marketing Show, a podcast that takes you deep inside high-performing marketing teams to learn what they do, how they do it, and how they get better every day. We cover strategy and execution, brand and demand, metrics and team structure, today's realities, and tomorrow's opportunities. If you lead a marketing team, you aspire to the top job, or you're a CEO who hires and manages a VP marketing, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the VP Marketing Show. I'm your host, Steve Watt, and today's guest is Lindsay Cournoyer. She's VP Marketing at Axonify, and Lindsay and I had a fantastic conversation. One of my favorite topics to dig into with marketing leaders is the way they've structured their marketing teams and why. And Lindsay, when becoming VP at Axonify, completely restructured and realigned her 20-person marketing team. And we talk a lot about why that change was made and how the new structure better serves the business. We also talk metrics, operations, brand, career advice, and a whole lot more. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to welcome Lindsay Cournoyer, VP Marketing at Axonify. Lindsay, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks to you, Steve. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm pumped to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Axonify.
So Axonify is a learning platform. So we play in the corporate learning space. And what we're good at is making sure that frontline employees remember the things they need to do every day that are important to their business. So as I mentioned, you were really great for that frontline workforce. So think about retail associates, call center agents, plant workers. So anyone out in the field who doesn't necessarily have corporate email and still needs to be trained every day on, how to deliver great customer service, the promotions that may be coming up in store, all those things they need to know. So what we do is deliver that quick burst of learning. It's 3 to 5 minutes a day. They log into our app and it reinforces all the right behaviors. It's based in brain science. It's adaptive. It's personal to each individual, and it's fun. So people want to come back every day, and we have crazy high participation rates. But we're really all about that behavior change. So what do you need your people to do? And then we have a proven formula to get them there.
Nice. And how big a company is it?
We are now at about 200 people. So when I joined Axonify almost 5 years ago now, I was employee 43, and today we're sitting at 200 people. So we've been through some really awesome growth over the last few years, which has been fun to be a part of.
Fantastic growth indeed. And your career has progressed during that time as well. And you've been the VP marketing for coming on a year now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I would say, I'm a new VP. Still learning the ropes of, the executive ranks. I came into Axonify as the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Brand, which was a job that I did for about 3 years. Loved it. Then moved in to be the Director of Marketing Programs, which was a brand new team that I helped build. So we decided to go after certain industries and segments. So I built out a team of very senior marketers to go to market and plan around demand for those audiences. And then after about 5 months in that role, I was asked to move into the VP job and have been doing that for about a year, as you mentioned.
How big is your team?
Today, we're about 20 people. So we're a good sized team. When I joined, there were 5 of us on Axonify's marketing team. And so we've been through, again, some great growth. And I am fortunate to lead a team of really great and talented marketers here. There are 20 of them today.
That 10% metric often seems to hold true. The marketing team somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% seems it's been relatively true at Axonify throughout the journey over your time there. I hear that again and again, particularly in growth tech companies. I mean, it varies when you get outside of that. Does that feel right to you? Like, is your team the right size? Some marketing leaders feel that they're really understaffed, under-resourced. Others feel that no, they're actually in the appropriate place for where their business is. How are you feeling about that?
I actually feel great about the size of our team. I think we have the perfect amount of people, and I'm really lucky that our CEO, Carol Lehman, gets marketing. She values marketing. She knows how important marketing is to the entire business. So she's very supportive about giving us the resources that we need to do our job. So no, I'd say we're in a great spot, and it's great to work for someone who really gets it and appreciates all the hard work that we're asked to do.
How is that team structured?
Okay, so when I came into the role a year ago, we were structured in functional teams, which I think is, pretty standard and normal. So we had our product marketing team and our content marketing team and our digital team and our programs team. And, having been a member of the team, so someone who was, down in the weeds with everyone, I had a good view of things. And when I came into the leadership role that I'm in today, I realized that we were really operating in silos. We all would have our own team plans and priorities, and they didn't necessarily align across teams. So the first thing I did when I was promoted is that I changed the team structure and how we worked. So I left people in their functional teams for the most part, but then I created more of a matrixed organization. So we have these go-to-market working teams now, and there are 3 core members to a working team. So we have the programs lead, who is really the go-to-market lead. We've got a content writer, and we've got a product marketer that form the nucleus of a go-to-market team. And then I created a shared services organization internally. We call it integrated marketing services. So really what we have is our own agency within the company. So we have brand, PR, digital, so web, email, graphic design. So rather than outsourcing a lot of our work to agencies, we've created that function internally. So the programs team will brief the integrated shared services team, and then they have that relationship like an agency and a client have, which is really cool. And we work together to set a plan, and then we start executing on it. So it's a model that has taken some time to get off the ground. It's been a challenge to get people to collaborate that tightly, just because they weren't really used to it, but it's up and running now, and people are super engaged. There's tons of creativity coming out of the team, and it's working really well.
That's really interesting. So let me make sure I've got this right. Mm-hmm. So there's 3-person teams, a program person, a content person, and a product marketing person in each team. And then how many of those teams are there?
We have 4 of them.
4. And those are industry specific, or what are they?
Yeah, so we have vertical and horizontal teams. So we have industry teams. So for example, we have team retail. And then we also have horizontal go-to-market teams. So, the HR and L&D buyer is critical for us. So we have a working team that leads the go-to-market around that as well. And then we have a partner marketing team. We have a customer marketing team who works on lifecycle marketing and our advocacy program. So we've formed these dedicated go-to-market or working teams within our structure, which I've been told is progressive and different, but it's working really well for us.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's really interesting because, I've encountered so many different team structures, and they usually start out very much as yours did, and then they start to evolve in ways that better serve the needs of the business. And I've certainly seen them evolving around industry verticals, and I've seen them evolving around, sort of market segments in terms of strategic accounts versus, a broader market team and a few other ways. But I'm really intrigued by the way you've got a lot going on there. You've got the shared services. Okay. Yes. Got it. Makes sense. And then you've got the 4 teams, but the fact that kind of like a couple of those teams are vertical and a couple are horizontal, that's an interesting twist. I don't think I've seen that before. How well is that working for you?
You know what? I have to say, like I mentioned before, it was a heavy lift to get off the ground because people were so used to operating just with their own functional teams. So we had to redo everything. all of our processes and procedures, the way we work. We implemented, a project management tool, and now we're into like a regular cadence of team meetings. So every Monday morning, we have a traffic meeting with the shared services team where we set the schedule for the week and everything's planned out. And then the working teams will have their weekly stand-ups to look at results and metrics and make those optimizations on campaigns. But we've like really found a nice groove in this operating model. And, like I said, it was difficult to get it up and running, but so worth it, because now we're just humming along, and the work, like I said, that's coming out of the team is super creative, and everyone's really engaged and collaborating well. So it was totally worth it.
I've been in organizations where the shared services model has worked really well, and I've been in organizations where it hasn't. And when it's broken down, it seems to me that the problem was that interface between the shared services and those that they supposedly served became really cumbersome and really bureaucratic. And shared services wanted the other teams to fill out, 12-page
briefs,
creative briefs, and then they'd red pen them if they didn't do it the way they wanted them. And the whole thing became a really frustrating process for everyone. Have you encountered any of that, or have you kind of worked out a way that you get a low friction relationship between shared services and those that they serve?
Yeah. So, to be perfectly honest, we had some false starts where exactly what you just said happened. It's, the brief was too prescriptive or not prescriptive enough, or, we go back and forth. And so, yes, we were there, I would say a few months ago. But what I found has worked really nicely is that the briefs are done by the program manager, who's the expert on the audience we're trying to get to. So take, a retail HR leader. So our program manager in retail understands that buyer inside and out, what they care about, what keeps them up at night, how our solution could really benefit them. So they brief in, but they keep it very broad, I would say, about this is the buyer, these are the things they care about. And then the shared services team goes away and has that real liberty to come back with a fully integrated proposal. And, we have just been through a few rounds of this, and the last one was amazing. I mean, the shared services team was locked away for a week or two, and they were having these great brainstorming sessions, and they all came out super energized and excited because, I think what people want is a chance to use their expertise, and they don't want to be told what to do. So by giving them that freedom to go and really think about things like an agency would, that seemed to work really well, and that will be what we do going forward.
Let's shift gears a little bit to metrics. What are some of the most important metrics that marketing as an entire organization delivers? And then also let's talk about some of the metrics below that, what these program teams and what some of the others are driving towards.
Yeah. So when I came into the role, the primary metric that we held ourselves to was MQLs. And, MQLs are good. I would say they're a leading indicator, but they certainly don't tell the full picture of how marketing is impacting opportunities and revenue. So I started to think a little deeper on that, and we moved the metric to SALs, or sales accepted leads, because really what I care about is that the team is opening up conversation and good conversation for our SDRs. So today we measure ourselves on SALs, so inbound leads that come in that are moved forward in our sales process. We have a quarterly target that we drive to. But you know what? To be honest, I'm not satisfied with SALs either. I think we have to continue to push ourselves to understand our impact on pipeline build and revenue. So it's something I'm working at every day with our business operations team, is really, what is marketing doing to build pipeline, and what is our actual impact on revenue. So that's what I hope to get to very quickly, and setting targets around that. And then, there are brand metrics, which some businesses or leaders, depending on who they are or your board, find a little fluffy and fuzzy, but brand metrics are really important to me. I think if you're not focused on building your brand and tracking metrics like website visits, subscribers to your newsletter or your blog, or contacts into your marketable database that fall into your ICP, you're really missing a chance to show how you're growing your audience. So we are really focused on that too, and we track them quarter over quarter to show that our brand growth is happening.
How do you handle that conversation with those who say, well, that's just vanity metrics?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really interesting. I'm a big believer that so much in marketing and in business more broadly is kind of like swinging pendulums, where things are at one extreme and then they swing to the other extreme. Mm-hmm. And then at some point they start swinging back the other way again. And I think that marketing measurement definitely falls into that, right? It was, yes. You go back far enough, it was all vanity metrics. And totally, then along came data-driven modern marketing, and it became, no, that it's got to be far more tangible. It's got to be, it's demand gen numbers, be they MQLs, SQLs, SALs, opportunities, pipeline, on and on and on, whatever flavor of that. But that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. And then I think brand was getting neglected, and then smart marketing leaders like you are not prepared to abandon brand, and you and others are doing great work there. But some of the things that you just said that are brand metrics, some would say, oh, that's old school vanity metrics. Those things don't put money in the bank. How do you handle that objection?
Well, I couldn't, disagree with that more. Is, brand in my mind is the precursor to demand, because quite frankly, you're not going to buy a software platform if you've never heard of the vendor or have a good feeling about the vendor, or if haven't been referred to the vendor. So, in a world where there's literally a software platform for everything and hundreds of them, you can't win on product anymore, in my mind. I mean, occasionally you can, but the reality is your competition can copy what you do. And we see that all the time. So we came out as a leader in modern learning, and our platform was really forward thinking. But, there's tons of competition in the market, super cluttered. So how do you stand out? And that's on your brand. It's, what do people think of you when they think of you? Do you have that positive sentiment? Do people want to do business with you? And I think now, with infinite supply and hundreds of platforms out there, if you don't work at your brand and standing out, then you're just going to fade in with everyone else and into the clutter. So that's my personal thoughts on brand and how important it is.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting conversation sometimes, and it can be a frustrating conversation. Now, there are some things I think with brand that maybe it's hard to measure sentiment, right? When you are small or mid-sized, you're not going to be going out there and spending a ton of money on some big brand sentiment study like a large national brand might do, a CPG company might do. You mentioned some tangible metrics you look at within brand. Mm-hmm. And I think there's other things where, a lot of companies are putting a lot of emphasis on how they're doing on G2 and Trust Radius and other things like that.
Yes.
I've had a guest mention invitations to speak at conferences as a thing. And I would imagine, although it might be a little harder to measure, there's an impact on win rate and sales cycle velocity and so forth, that if you're an in-demand brand, people want to deal with you.
Exactly.
So there are absolutely a bunch of things that you can and do measure.
Yes.
Are there some things with brand that you just do because you just believe that you're okay with the fact that you can't measure?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of nebulous. And, like you said, we're too small to be able to pay tons of money to measure sentiment. But what I've found is that the best advocates for your brand are your happy customers. And Axonify is really lucky to have a super enthused and engaged customer base. So we have a conference every year, a user conference, and they all come together and we invite prospects, who are in talks with us to buy our platform. And our customers get up on stage and speak to our team, how we partner with them, how we truly care about their business, about the impact that we've had on their business, and their people who love to train on Axonify. And it's like better than any marketing I could ever do is to actually hear from your customers' mouths and really promote that advocacy. So that to me is something that's invaluable. And that is the true test of your brand, is what do your customers say about you, when you're there or not there. And I think, we're lucky to have a very enthused customer base.
Does your team work closely with customer success in customer marketing with measurable outcomes, in terms of retention and share of wallet growth and so forth, or does that live more with customer success?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have a full working team, a dedicated team to customer marketing, and we're focused on, communication and life cycle marketing. So getting them to adopt more and more of the platform. But a big part of our customer marketing program, and we have an amazing lead of that team who's so creative, is just delighting customers in unexpected ways. So there are some things we can measure, but it does get a little fuzzy. But really what we're trying to do is make our customers feel special. We send personalized videos, and at our customer conference we go over the top to make them feel special. So I'd say it's more about that sentiment that we're building, but we are working towards metrics around feature adoption and impact on churn or retention, but it's tricky.
And how much of that customer communication is from the brand, from Axonify, and how much is from their customer success person? Are you, and how do you think about that balance?
Yeah, so our customer marketing manager works hand in hand with our CS team, and they've literally just launched our lifecycle marketing, and some communications come from marketing, and most account communications come from their CS rep, and we have a really nice flow. We have monthly newsletters that come from marketing and special things, campaigns, and then the account communications come through their CSM, but it's a fully coordinated effort, and we work really closely with them just to make sure that the experience feels good to the customer.
What's the overarching operational philosophy for your team? Do you run agile? Do you run quarterly plans, annual plans? How does that look?
Yeah, so this is a funny one. So for all the years I've been at Axonify, we've taken the time each January to build out, I would say, a very robust yearly marketing plan. And it takes a lot of time. It's a heavy lift. And I can tell you the plan that we put together in January is already obsolete. So, our market moves so fast, our business moves so fast that, the day of the yearly marketing plan, I think, is done. You have to be agile. So we plan now more by quarter. And, we make adjustments as needed. So it's really a fluid thing. And that's, what works best for our team now.
Have you gone as far as some marketing teams are truly embracing agile the way a product and dev team will do it, with epics and sprints, and like really embracing that? Yes. And others, it's more like, we're not going to go that far, but we're just going to kind of stay nimble. Yeah. Where are you at on that thinking?
Well, when I first came into the role, I had the vision of going agile and going all in on, operating like a dev team would. But once we got going, it's more of a fluid thing, I would say. So like I said, we have our weekly traffic meetings, we have stand-ups, and we adjust in real time. But I wouldn't say that we operate like a fully agile team. It's a little rigid to me. I don't know.
What's next for you and your team? Are there some channels or strategies or tactics that you are not presently doing that you are keen to experiment with, or perhaps some that you've been testing and you're really, you're going to be doubling down on?
Yeah, so we are actually just venturing into the world of ABM. I would say a little late than others, but we're finally ready to do that. So we're planning a pilot right now, and it's something that I'm really excited about. We have a very defined audience that we're going to go after, and I mean, it's a test. I have high hopes, but we'll see what happens. But we're just getting our plans together around that, and I think it'll be a great effort. We've got a tiger team from marketing through to sales and ODRs and CS and implementation. So it's an end-to-end team that we've brought together that's going to go after an audience. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
That'll be really exciting to see how that comes together, and certainly from an alignment perspective,
Yes.
you're definitely starting down the right road.
Yes. Yeah.
What are the objectives there around greenfield client acquisition, or growth within existing clients, or deal acceleration, or is it some combination of objectives?
It's I would say greenfield. We're going after net new accounts. So we've had a lot of success in a certain area with a certain type of customer. So we're, building a lookalike audience. And, when you have great stories to tell that you've helped people like them, I think, we should see some success. But yeah, we're going for net new customers.
We'll have to have you back on at some point once you've
sure.
run that pilot and learned what you learned, and I'd be excited to hear how that is all coming together for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Lindsay, before we wrap up, I would love to know what career advice you have for marketers. Some of the listeners of this podcast are your peers. They are marketing leaders. Others are aspiring to that role and are working their way up through a marketing organization of whatever size. And that can be a daunting task. I mean, there are so many things that you conceivably could be great at, and I don't know how anyone could possibly be great at all of them. There's not enough hours in the day to learn everything and be great at everything. And some people will tell you ought to focus on being really, really great at a few things. And others will say you got to focus on being like really well-rounded. And there's all sorts of other advice flying around for aspiring marketing leaders. What would you say?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only speak to my own experience, but I would say finding your range is critical to becoming a marketing VP. So before Axonify, I was at another tech startup in Waterloo called Magnet Forensics. And I was their very first marketing hire. There were 5 of us who started the company in the Accelerator Center here in Waterloo. And I was responsible for everything. I showed up on my first day and the CEO had a list of 200 things he wanted me to do. So, we started with a rebrand. Then we went into building our demand gen plan and infrastructure, product marketing, social media. I mean, I literally got to touch and lead everything myself. And I know that's a unique situation, but my advice would be to get into an early stage company and try a lot of things. And, you may see that you are fond of one area in particular and you can follow that. But I think as a marketing VP, and if that's what you aspire to, you have to have grasp and a handle over everything, just deep enough knowledge to know that your team is on the right track. So I would say developing that range for me, starting at Magnet Forensics, is really what set me up for this opportunity.
It's really interesting. It's such logic to what you're saying, that when you're in a small organization and you get to get your hands into everything, you're going to learn a lot.
Yes.
Others would say, yeah, but are you really ever going to learn best practices if you're kind of figuring out everything yourself? And other people have told me, oh, you should absolutely start your career be a much smaller fish in a bigger pond, and
Yes.
work with the some kind of company that's fantastic at this stuff, because you're going to accelerate your learning. Even though you're going to do fewer things, you're just going to be kind of immersed in best practices.
Yeah.
Do you think there's some truth to that? I mean, maybe in a perfect world, you ought to do both, but I mean, how do you think about that?
So I think you'll be naturally good at some things, but you have to learn from others where you're not strong. So for me, I have my go-to agencies. So if I need work in MarTech, I have my people. If I need creative, I have my people. If I want to do ABM, I know the agencies to go to. So I think it's important to have those organizations and the help that you can, bring in as needed, and you learn from them and you learn best practice. And then you have that overall knowledge of what best practice looks like in each area. And then I'd also say, as you build out your team, I mean, I learn a ton from the directors who report to me. We have an amazing product marketing director, and he knows far more than I do about product marketing, but I learn from him every day. So I think it's between your peers and the agency partners that you bring in, you can really build a good understanding of all areas of marketing.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lindsay. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you and to learn from you. I really appreciate it, and I hope our listeners appreciate and learn just as much as I did.
I hope so too. Thanks for having me, Steve.
This has been Lindsay Cournoyer, VP Marketing at Axonify. Thanks for listening to the VP Marketing Show. We hope you'll join us next time.